Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We are very glad that you're here. Thank you for making the effort to join us this evening. This is the first time in many years that the Barrington 220 Board of Education and Administration has held a town hall meeting. So we're glad that you're here. A lot of work has gone into this evening, and we hope that it will not only be informational, but it will also be conversational. Because at the end, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of our format tonight, we want to give you the opportunity to participate. So let me just very quickly tell you how we're going to structure tonight's town hall meeting. There are going to be 4 brief vignettes that will give you a glimpse of the district's climate in terms of its finances, its physical facilities, its instructional climate, as well as its safe and social emotional climate. So during those 4 vignettes, you'll have the opportunity to hear from some of our Board of Education members who will overview some things that are going on in the school district. Between each one of the 4 vignettes, you want to pay careful attention because there's going to be a very brief video. And that video will give you a bit of a summary of the key points that you're going to hear about during the next few minutes as we discuss that particular topic. Now, you'll notice that on the stage tonight there are a number of austere individuals. These are, in most cases, administrators and faculty here in the school district, and they're joining us because during the Q&A portion of this evening's town hall meeting, the Board of Education may need a lifeline. They may want to go to the bank of experts and call in a little bit of help for a particular question, so that's why they're seated on the stage. When you arrived this evening, you were given a question card. And that question card was provided to you by students who are in the National Honor Society here at Barrington High School. And tonight, if you hear something that kind of piques your interest, or you may have a particular question, we would invite you to write down your question on that card. You'll have an opportunity to submit that question toward the end of the program. You were also given a survey. And we'd ask that if you don't mind, while you're listening to the program tonight, or perhaps as soon as it's over, just fill out that survey. There's only 5 simple questions on it. Leave it on the table or hand it to one of our students, and that will give us an opportunity to kind of evaluate how we want to do going forward if we hold future town hall meetings. We should also mention that we have an interpreter available tonight, so if any of our guests prefer to listen in Spanish, you're welcome to do so. We have those headsets available outside of the table. As I mentioned, we have students from the National Honor Society who are joining us tonight from Barrington High School. Perhaps you noticed when you walked in the front lobby there on the landing outside of the library, we had students in Clark Sheldon's orchestra program who were performing for you, so we hope that you enjoyed that brief entertainment. Before we introduce our superintendent and our Board of Education, just want to ask if we have some individuals who are here representing the Barrington Area Council of Governments. I know that we have at least one. Mr. Sauer from Lake Barrington is joining us tonight. Anybody else from BACOG, known as Barrington Area Council of Governments? We have a number of staff and community members who are here tonight. Anybody happen to participate in the district's strategic planning process that was held from the fall of 2008 to 2009? Very good. Thank you for coming. You'll hear many references to strategic planning tonight. Thank you for the work that you invested in that. A lot of history is going to be shared with you this evening as we look back over the past few years here in the school district. Do we have any former members of the Board of Education who are here? I'm sure that we saw any of them joining us. But if so, I think that you'll see a lot of work that has gone into where the district is today. Not only our current members of the Board of Education, but a lot of past members of the Board of Education as well. And we want to recognize and thank them. So tonight, during the 4 vignettes, they will be presented to you by members of our Board of Education and our superintendent. I'm not going to introduce everybody who's on stage because, as I mentioned, when we go to the Q&A portion of the program, if we have to, or if we need to enlist the help of those who are seated here, they'll be introduced at that time. But I do want to introduce to you our superintendent and our Board of Education. Dr. Tom Lemon is our superintendent of schools. He's seated right there. And our 7 members of the Board of Education. Brian Battle is the president, having served on the board since 2003. Brian? Penny Casimir is the vice president. She's been a member of the board since 2005. Jeff Church is the secretary of the Board of Education. He's been here since 2003. And on the board since 2006 is Kara Richardson. Tim Hall has been on the board since 2007. And our two newest members of the Board of Education, having joined in the spring of 2009, they are Sandra Vicky Bradford and Nicholas Sauer. Well, thank you again for joining us, and please remember, if you have questions, just jot those down on the question cards. When we get to that portion of the program, you'll be able to kind of wave those in the air, and our NHS students will collect those, and then we'll ask for those from the floor. We also, if you may recall, opened up our website several weeks ago and invited people to submit questions there as we prepared for the town hall meeting. We have a number of those from the website that we'll be asking as well. So we're going to start with Dr. Tom Linden, who's going to give you an overview of how we put together tonight's town hall meeting. Dr. Linden.
Good evening. I hope this, yes, it is working. That's beautiful. The technology students up there know what they're doing. I want to just give you a quick overview of how we got to this point. It has been a desire of this board to connect with the community and open this type of an open forum for quite a while. And we decided back in the spring of 2010, in May, we sent out a survey, and we got a lot of data of what people would like to hear at a town hall meeting. We also, as Jeff said, we did a strategic planning in the fall of 2008, 2009, and it's interesting that many of the things that came out in this community survey are also things that came out in the strategic planning. And finally, our board, kind of in tune to all this, has set their priorities and goals. And I'm just going to show you, we've divided tonight into 4 segments. And the 4 segments are really connected to all 3 of these. So let me show you the 4 segments. The first one is financial climate. And we're going to talk about that. On the survey, we found that people were asking about how school funding works, how we're managing our resources, fiscal resources, and we're concerned about staffing. Staffing is connected to the fiscal situation. Strategic planning, these 2 goals have been long-term with the board, community trust and fiscal responsibility, obviously congruent with what people are asking about. And finally, the board has some goals, maintaining fiscal health, monitoring legislation, and preserving trust with the community. So the first area will be financial climate. The second one is physical climate, and from the survey, people were interested in class sizes, what's going on there, how are our facilities, demographics, things about redistricting, how those decisions are made. In strategic planning, the topic that kept coming up there was making sure that we had healthy and environmentally sustainable schools. And finally, the board has goals which are congruent with those, balancing enrollment and facility needs, and their goal for quite a while here has been to complete the ELC. That eventually will leave us as a goal, because that's been completed. The third area, obviously critical, is instructional climate. When we did the survey, again last spring, people asked questions about academic achievement, gifted education, special education, and technology, how we're integrating that into the classroom. Strategic planning, you can see the things that came up there, individualized instruction, global education, optimal time for learning, and technology always seems to be a concern in this day and age. And the board has a goal to align curricula, interventions, and assessments. And really that's kind of weaving all of those things together. The next area, and the last area that we'll talk about, is social emotional climate. Community survey in the spring. There were questions about student mental health issues. They wanted us to talk about school safety. Strategic planning. This again has been a long-term strategic goal of the district to be working on social and emotional learning. And the board's goal again is congruent to promote social and emotional learning. So they're all congruent. Those are the 4 areas that we'll be talking about. In each of them a little bit of a section, and different board members will talk specifically about each area. So with that, you're going to see the first vignette that kind of talks about our first area, which is fiscal responsibility, a short video, and we'll get a couple board members up here, and the presentations will start, and the questions will start. Thank you for coming tonight.